Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how you can make your environment look more cartoony using Iclone 7 and... Well, I bet it's almost the same thing.
2 seconds later.
We're using Iclone 8. Alright, once you open your Iclone, start by importing at least one of your characters. And here comes the easiest part. In the props folder, go to 3D blocks and add a floor and 2 walls. Make sure you resize them to fit your character's proportions. I wanted my last wall to have a window, but I didn't have this option in Iclone 8, so I had to create it in Blender. And after numerous hours, the wall was completed. In case you want this piece of art, you can download it for free from cgtrader.com. Link in the description. Once you import the wall and position it the way you like it, we can instantly make things look better by changing the atmosphere. I picked the heaven option because I'm so nice. It's the one that looks the most neutral and cartoony at the same time. Let's start decorating. As we all know, there are plenty of free textures that you can find online, and some of them look pretty amazing and cartoony already. But for this tutorial, I'm going to use the Visual Essential pack because I have it. Of course, you can find everything you need for free online. You don't really need to buy this pack, but I'll show you how I use it in case you find it useful like I did. Okay, I mainly used the Substance PBR 200+, and of course the 200+ LUTs. In terms of the textures, they were pretty amazing. As you can see, I didn't have to look for anything outside of this bag. I had everything I needed. True, they do look a little bit too realistic for my taste, but of course Iclone 8 allows you to customize absolutely everything, and you can play with the detail level and so much more. I imagine if you're doing realistic stuff, it's even better. And don't even get me started on the LUTs. I'll show you why I'm so excited in the end. If you have the pack, you can just select the media folder and type whatever texture you want in the search bar. Once you make your choice, just drag the texture on the object that you want to cover or in the Substance menu in your Modify tab. And did I mention you can customize everything super easy and super fast? Oh, and just in case you get this weird distortion once you try to apply the texture, just select your displacement map and adjust the strength to 0. Same goes for the frame. And for the glass part of the window, just add a wall and fit it inside the frame. I think I spent too much time on the window, and I have no idea how I ended up with the final result. I was never happy with it, so I kept changing it, and I have no idea what I did. Wow, that's a great tutorial. It is time to find your inner interior designer. Or just get some inspirational images from Pinterest, I suppose. Yeah, I'm not really good at interior designing. If you want, you can use royalty-free assets. I've left links for all the assets I'm using in the description box. This part took forever, and I don't have any good advice except for follow your gut. I have hours of footage of furniture being moved around until I figure out what I want. It's boring, it's messy, so I'll just skip to the final result. Yeah, let's move on to the most important part, the lighting.
Yay!
Okay, first things first. You change the atmosphere to the rim light IBL because it's the darkest, but not dark enough. Decrease the strength to 0 and in your scene folder, delete all the lights. I'm pretty sure I'm doing this wrong. Step 2. Ambient light, found in the visual menu. Okay, here is my logic. Feel free to disagree. If we have a scene that is outdoors, I imagine the ambience light cover will be affected by the sky, because it's the biggest thing out there. So if we have an interior and the scene is set during daytime and we have a big window, I imagine the ambient light color will be bluish like the sky. But also my main source of light will be coming through the window and will be kind of yellowish, so picking a blue ambient light will be a nice complementary color that will help the light pop up. Yeah, I hope it makes sense in the end. And because I like this lamp, I have a secondary light source, no logic at all. First, there is a point light that goes in the middle, just something soft, and there will be 2 spotlights going up and down. And as I was experimenting with different settings, I finally got to experience the volumetric light option. So this is a new feature for Iclone 8, and let me tell you, my life will never be the same. I'll use volumetric light for every single thing I do. This box will never go unchecked again. Honestly, this thing blew my mind. I already saw Benjamin's tutorial on the REALLUSION channel where he goes through all the features, link in description box, but I still ended up being shocked in the end by the massive difference volumetric light makes. Yeah, I've never used another rendering software, so for me this was mind-blowing. I was thinking this is Disney quality movies. I decided to increase the strength of the volumetric light the further away we move from the character, so that it creates this blurry effect. That way the character will look sharper compared to the background and will pop out more, I hope. And if that wasn't enough, there is another new feature in Iclone 8 that I totally love. It's the second box near the colors of the light that helps you customize the color of the shadows that they make. That way you can make your scene extra colorful. Okay, I'm finished with the lamp, and now let's move on to the window light. There are many different options to do this in Iclone, but I'm going to use a spotlight. Oh, apparently I chose the glass 01 texture for the window. And for some reason I decided to use this free image from pixabay.com for my diffuse and reflection map. It has a blue sky in it, I guess that's why. I gave the light a yellowish tint and I turned off the shadows. I actually turned off the shadows for most of my light sources because, as you will see, I'm using so many lamps that if they all create shadows it will just be a big mess. I know it goes against the laws of physics, but I don't care. In this case, I prefer using the rectangle shape for the spotlight and playing with its width and height until I get what I want. And of course, don't forget to experiment with the angle, fall-off and attenuation. And for dessert, you can check the volumetric light box. Make it orange, the complementary color of blue, and just move the sliders until you get this kind of effect. In case you want to know what each slider does, just watch Benjamin's tutorial because I just move things around randomly. I'm adding a point light for extra sun power, and this time I'll enable the shadows. To the volumetric light thingy, there are different ways to control the shadows in Iclone 8, including having a shadow catcher. In this case, I only have a few of the lamps create shadows and everything else will be shadow free. That way I can just add extra color to stuff. It's almost like using the overlay filter in Photoshop, but in 3D. Yay! Alright, I'll show you what I mean. As you can see, I'm adding an extra point light colored in blue to help the wall become even bluer. The idea is to increase the saturation in certain areas. I kind of did the same thing for the bookshelf area as well, until I realized that this room looks like it belongs to a heavy smoker. So as much as I love volumetric light, I would advise you to be careful and not overdo it like I did. In case you have volumetric light addiction like me, I'll show you how you can cover it up with LUTs later on. But before that, let's work on lighting up the character. I always treat the scene and character lighting separately because I feel like it. The character is the most important thing to focus on, so you have to make sure they look the best way. the first thing you have to do is to put a smile on their face. Yay! Next step, we'll have 3 lights in total. The first one is the fill light. It's a very weak slight light that covers pretty much the whole character. It can be a similar color to the ambient light, and it's so slight that it's almost like we're covering the shadows. Oh yeah, and don't forget, since we're using so much volumetric light in the background, we tried to restrain ourselves this time because we want the character to look sharper. So no volumetric light when lighting the character. Okay, add a second point light, and this one I usually call the face light. Its purpose is to make the face of the character look as pretty as possible every single time. Feel free to even attach it to the head bone so that during animation the face is always illuminated. Once again, I'm not trying to make it look realistic, it's more about making sure the character looks pretty. My tips here are move the lights close to the face and have a very low multiplier. In order to avoid uneven brightness on the face, select the rectangle shape for the lamp and also play with the width and height until it looks more even. And in this case, you can disable the shadows. This is what it looks like without the fill light. And finally, we're adding a backlight, also known as rim light. Since the light coming from the window is not actually able to do the job, the rim light helps establish the connection with the lighting in the background, and it also helps the character stand out. And make sure your shadows are enabled. This is optional, but I added another point light in the room to make it brighter since it's daytime. I don't know how I feel about it. But what I do know is how I feel about another new feature in Iclone 8. And this one also blew my mind. It's the lens flare. Look at it! It's so epic! And of course, you can customize everything once again. In case you're curious, I found out that there are almost 300 more lens flares options available in the REALLUSION website, and I think I understand how J.J. Abrams felt, because I want to use all of them, but I'll restrain myself. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, especially me, the LUTs. You can find them in the stage folder, then post effects, then LUTs. I'll be honest, I just followed my intuition based on the preview images, which wasn't always right, mind you. So let's see what I ended up with. I started by adding a morning effect by just dragging it into my scene. Don't be scared if it looks weird, you can actually control the blend strength. The goal is to make this cartoony scene more saturated and colorful, therefore I'm using my favorite LUT, Desert Sun. It's a free one. I just like how the yellow colors look with it. And because I like the color blue as well, I add the strong blue tint to balance things, I think. And to make this scene even more child-friendly, I randomly picked the Vibrance B LUT. Feel free to decrease its strength, just in case. Of course, I couldn't help it, and I spent a bit too much time experimenting and trying different LUTs. I was just so grateful that I didn't have to do any color corrections in my video editing software, because I'm really bad at it. So again, it did save me some time. And finally, I added some contrast LUT. There was so much to pick from, but I chose Contrast C. And here is the final difference, with and without post effects. Of course, it depends what you're going for. I was going for something cartoony, hence color explosion. And as a final touch, I added some dust effects next to the window light, because we all need dust in our lives, and some green lights behind the sofa because that was the only cover of lights I didn't have. And that's why I'll never get a job at Disney in the lighting department. And here is the final result. Yay, my laptop is still alive!